Story 1, The Haunting Whispers. It was a gloomy afternoon at Oak Ridge High School, nestled deep within the woods. Rain tapped gently against the windows as Mr. Anderson, the history teacher, led his class through a lesson on the Civil War. Suddenly, the PA system crackled to life. "Attention all students and staff," Principal Williams' voice echoed through the school. "This is a lockdown drill. Please follow lockdown procedures immediately." Confusion filled the classroom, but Mr. Anderson knew the protocol. He motioned for his students to huddle beneath their desks in silence. The rain drummed on, creating an eerie ambience. Minutes turned into an hour, and tension hung thick in the air. That's when Sarah, a quiet girl who usually sat at the back, began to tremble. "Are you okay?" whispered her neighbor, Jake. Sarah's eyes darted around the room, her gaze finally fixating on the dusty old chalkboard. "I keep hearing voices," she said in a hushed tone. The others exchanged puzzled glances. "Voices? What are you talking about?" Jake asked. Sarah's face contorted in fear. "Whispers, like they're coming from the walls." Mr. Anderson, concerned, walked over to comfort her. "It's probably just your imagination, Sarah. Stay calm." But Sarah's panic was contagious. The other students strained their ears, and soon, they too heard the faintest of whispers. It was as if disembodied voices were trying to communicate from behind the walls. "What are they saying?" one student asked. "It's too quiet to make out," Sarah replied, tears welling up in her eyes. The minutes dragged on, and the whispering grew slightly louder. Panic spread throughout the room as they strained to hear the words. It was an indistinct, unsettling chorus of murmurs. Then, just as abruptly as it had started, the whispering stopped. The PA system crackled again, announcing the end of the lockdown. The class rushed out of the room, eager to escape the unsettling atmosphere. Mr. Anderson was left behind, deep in thought. He couldn't shake the feeling that the whispers held some hidden message, but it was a mystery he dared not explore further. Story 2, The Vanishing Teacher. At St. Agnes Elementary School, lockdown drills were routine. But one fateful afternoon, during a particularly intense thunderstorm, something inexplicable occurred. Sister Mary Elizabeth, a stern but beloved teacher, was assigned to watch over her first-grade class as they cowered beneath their desks. Thunder rattled the windows, and the rain fell in torrents outside. As Sister Mary Elizabeth stood guard, she suddenly noticed a figure standing in the hallway outside her classroom. It was a child, drenched in rainwater, with long, tangled hair obscuring their face. Sister Mary Elizabeth, thinking it was a lost student, approached the figure. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked, concern in her voice. The child didn't respond. Instead, they turned and walked away, disappearing around a corner. Sister Mary Elizabeth followed, only to find an empty hallway. There was no sign of the child. Confused and worried, she returned to her classroom to find her students safe but shaken. The lockdown ended, and she reported the strange encounter to the principal, who assured her it was likely a lost student who had quickly found their way back. But Sister Mary Elizabeth couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. She couldn't explain how the child had vanished so completely. Over the years, she became more reclusive, convinced that she had seen a ghost that day, a spirit trapped in the school's haunted halls. Story 3: The Phantom Footsteps. At Crestwood Middle School, nestled on the edge of a dense forest, students and teachers had grown accustomed to the sounds of the woods during lockdown drills. However, on one chilling winter's day, they experienced something that defied explanation. As the school went into lockdown, Mrs. Hernandez's 6th grade class huddled in silence in their classroom. The wind outside howled, and the trees rustled ominously. Suddenly, amidst the silence, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hallway. They were slow, deliberate, and seemed to be moving closer to the classroom. Mrs. Hernandez held her breath, her eyes fixed on the door. Her students exchanged nervous glances, their faces pale with fear. The footsteps drew nearer, now just outside the classroom. The doorknob turned slowly, and the door creaked open. Mrs. Hernandez and her students stared in shock as the door swung wide, revealing an empty hallway. The footsteps, however, continued inside the classroom. With a sense of dread, Mrs. Hernandez counted the steps. 1, 2, 3. They crossed the room, moving among the desks as if an invisible presence were walking among them. The students were frozen in terror, unable to comprehend what was happening. Then, just as suddenly as they had begun, the footsteps stopped. The door swung shut with a loud thud. The lockdown eventually ended, and Mrs. Hernandez and her students left the classroom, shaken to their core. They never spoke of the phantom footsteps again, but the memory haunted their dreams for years to come. These 3 true school lockdown stories serve as a chilling reminder that sometimes, even in the most ordinary of places, the inexplicable and eerie can unfold when you least expect it.